everybody. I'm Jessica Henry Gray and I'm excited to come back to you today with my YouTube channel. I am at the beautiful estate called Stan Hywet Halton Gardens in Akron, Ohio. Today I'm going to plein air paint gatehouse. It's this beautiful house that back in the day carriages would come through and they'd park, and so anyway, I'm going to paint this. The umbrellas are out and it's just a gorgeous day, but I hope that you enjoy looking at some of these shots of the estate. And I'm going to be back here in July of 2021 to teach a workshop, a 3-day workshop. So check out all those links below. I think you're going to enjoy those, and also just check out the link on Stan Hywet. It is a gorgeous estate with a fantastic history. In fact, if you've ever heard of Goodyear tires, these are the people who started it. All right, so take a look. I think you're going to enjoy this video. So today I'm going to talk about painting a building and catching that sun on the path. All right, everybody, thanks so much. All right, so we are going to jump in with a thumbnail sketch today. It's a fairly complicated scene. So I start out by blocking in a rectangular shape similar to what my canvas is. I'm using an 8x10 today, so it's a little bit more square than it is rectangle. All right, so I'm just isolating a general where I want the focal area of my picture to be. And I love, this is actually a carriage house in the Tudor style, part of the Stan Hywet property. And so I love that gable above the tunnel there. And so that's sort of that focal point. And I divide my rectangle up in this manner and a little bit in the thirds. So it's not in the center, it's off to the side. And I block in where the major sections are going to be: the foreground, the middle ground information, and the little patch of sky. And then below it, I'm beginning with a little bit more refinement of that passage where I just sort of want to have a clearer understanding of where I'm going to block in my darkest values and my medium, and where the light's going to be strongest, and just really drawing the eye into that area. And so I begin by loosely just sketching it in. These thumbnail sketches are not intended to be a fully realized drawing, but to help me with a basic blueprint as I begin my work on canvas. So a lot of times people are overwhelmed when they get to a site and they're not sure, where do I begin with all this information? Giving yourself these boundaries and this plan will actually make your time shorter, your efforts. It's an excellent way to begin with efficiency in the field. And I find a lot of beginners tend to get overwhelmed. And so this is an excellent way to avoid that, being overwhelmed. Start with the sketch, block in where you want to go with your composition, your design, and select just the essentials. And so what I'm doing at this point now is I've got my little sketch down below, and I'm coming back through and figuring out my large passages of dark value as I squint down at that scene, and that's why I included it in a small image here on my off to the left, I'm blocking in where the largest patterns of dark will be, and then where my middle tone range will be, and then my light. So in a design that is well balanced, you have 1/3 of something, 2/3 of something, and then a predominance of something. So in this case, the majority is middle tone and a little bit dark, and even an even smaller amount of white, my brightest lights. So that's just a really nice basic way to begin with that. All right, set the sketch aside, tone the canvas. Since most of this painting is predominantly middle tone, I find it's best to just start with a middle tone on the canvas. I don't always do that. If my painting was primarily high key, I may not tone the canvas at all. So in the same manner that I began my thumbnail sketch, I am beginning my painting. I look less to my image in front of me in the beginning, and I refer mostly to my thumbnail sketch as I block this in, because that is where I did all of my thinking. And I can't underscore that importance enough. Refer to your thumbnail sketch. It's where you were working in your left brain logic and working out your problems and your issues. Again, this will speed up your process and make you less frustrated. Plein air painting is difficult when you're out there for 3-4 hours. So I always try to get people to try to keep it in 1 and 2 hours. These videos I do fast forward a bit, as you can see, but they probably don't take me more than 1.5 to 2 hours at the most. So if you can keep your plein air studies around that window of time, you'll have a better chance of arriving at a successful experience, and you may go out and do it again if it's enjoyable. So efficiency is very important. All right, so now blocking again my darks as I saw them. You can't just start willy-nilly putting dark paint on the canvas. So I'm drawing with a thinned down, just dark, and that helps me figure out where everything's going to be going. Because the canvas is already middle tone, half of the battle for that is already done. So I'll get the darks in place, and then I'll wipe out a few highlights so that I know where my 3 strongest values are going to be sitting. Knowing that the shapes of the shadows as I see them are going to be shifting and moving throughout the time that I'll be painting, I want to grab the shapes that are consistent at a specific point in the juncture of this painting process. So as I'm blocking this in, I'm selecting those shadows that are going to help me best define that time of day. When I took this little video picture off to the left, that was at the very end of what I was painting. So the shadows in that example are going to be a little bit different than as they are when I'm painting. But what you have to do while you're painting something, knowing that your light is going to shift, you grab onto a shadow that will best identify what it is you're trying to say about a scene. So I'm working in putting in the umbrellas, and they are a focal area. When I started, that one in the center was open, of course, but knowing it was closed, I just wanted to grab it real quick and get that area figured out, because our eye is always drawn to the area of the greatest contrast, I'm pushing that right in the center more so that I have a stronger contrast over there. There's a fountain over there. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to play it up just a little bit more in my little study here. And I'm going to use a little bit more contrast, stronger paint for it. Now I'm beginning with the colors, so I start with the furthest away and I block in the sky. Now when you determine what it is you want to start with, I always ask myself, what do I need to layer over it? So in this case, the sky is generally always the furthest back. So I'll add some of that in, knowing that it's not going to be a central figure in this whole painting. So just keeping it quiet, add a subtle green back there for the tree. I make it a little cooler just so that it stays behind and doesn't call for attention. It's really not what the painting's about. There's a tree behind this dark one that comes in front, so I want that just to be suggested, just giving the feeling that there's forest or full trees behind this building. Adding a little bit of sunshine to those trees gives them some dimension. White and cad yellow is what I call sunshine. A little bit of green. You can add the smallest touch of phthalo green to the cad yellow and white mixture. Gives it a really nice springy feeling of sunshine. Put in a few sky holes and that background tree is pretty much done. It doesn't need a whole lot more than that. Okay, so I'm going to work on the roof now, and I don't think that you can get a really good feeling from the video shot off to the left, but it's sort of almost like a tarnished copper color on the plates there on the ceiling, or I'm sorry, the roof. So I'm squinting my eyes and I'm mixing sort of a general, almost sage color for the roof, and of course there's a multicolored texture on the roof, so I'm grabbing in a few of those little dappled patches of color, giving it some sort of vibrancy of cool and warm up there. Keeping my brush strokes showing the direction of the roof. I'm not going to draw and paint in every single little tile, but I'm blocking in this color and that color as I have it on my brush. So you can see the direction that I'm putting those brush strokes in for the different sides of the roof, and it helps to show that angle and that form. Toward the top, I'm seeing a lot of light hitting the roof line as it was about the middle of the day and the sun was really intense. If the sun were to have shifted one way or the other, whether it was earlier morning or later afternoon, the top of the roof line would become more silhouetted and the lower portion of the roof would receive more light hitting it. But since the sun was at its peak, the top was getting a lot more of that light hitting it. So I used a little bit more of the cadmium yellow and white where I saw the sun most intense on the roof. And you can't tell that by the picture off to the side because by the time I finished, it was again about, an hour and a half, 2 hours after the beginning of this painting. But again, just taking the corner of my brush, I'm just dabbing in a few little highlights just to indicate the texture of the roof and the shingles. And now I take a little bit smaller brush with some dark, and I'm coming up and refining some of these places where there's a darker accent. I'm not worried as yet about the the little Tudor designs inside there, I can always paint those in with a little bit lighter color. But I'm cleaning up some of these sharper edges, especially in the area where I have the focal area. Nice crisp edge. This is a rosemary, and I just love this sharper edge. Given that the gable is the focal area of this painting, I even before I get the rest of the painting blocked in with my darks, I want an area to start to feel like it's supposed to feel. So I took a little bit of a chalky gray sort of shadow color and blocked it in for the windows up there. And I'll put in a little bit of information for the that Tudor gabling effect in there. It helps to have an area of your painting that feels finished or close to it. It gives you a gauge of how far you want to push everything else. And I'm still working on the darkest passages of the darkest value in here. At this point, I'm working on the shadows, and I could see more shadows as what is shown on the little picture that was there. But it is a little bit more sienna, and off to the side here where the roof line goes off the edge of the canvas, I'm softening it just a bit. Again, our eye is drawn to the area of the greatest contrast, and so a sharp line like that is going to draw the eye right off the canvas. And so I'm making sure that it's not quite as delineated and articulated as the center of interest area. Even though I can look at it and see that it's a sharp edge, I want to control the viewer to just look at this main area where I'm going to focus on. So I came back to that area to work on some more of that information around the focal area. One thing that you don't get to see from these videos is how often I'm wiping my brush off on my paper towel. Very, very important to just keep it in your other hand. So I'm working on what is seen beyond the tunnel. Since that is an area of interest, focal interest, I'm working on creating that movement of light. So at the top of the tunnel on the other side, the sun is hitting the foliage more intense. And then as it moves down, the foliage slips into shadow. So I really like that dimension of interest back there that gives it just something that says, look back here, you'll be rewarded. It's interesting. And so I always am looking for ways to reward the viewer to come up and take a closer look. And you can see from the inset here that I'm pushing it just a little bit more. And again, when I started this painting, it was a little bit more sparkly and intense on the other side. So pulling that out. Now, starting to work on the fountain, the light was hitting the top tiers of each of the fountain layers a little bit more intensely. And then as it comes down, there's shadow underneath those. So it suggests a fountain. And towards the end, I'll add some of the sparkling water a little bit more. I'm now working on the ivy that's climbing up the building, and I just love this ivy. I think it's so beautiful, the way that the light shapes and forms around there. To get beautiful greens, cad yellow, little white, a little bit of phthalo green, really the smallest touch. You can mix it up by putting a little bit more cad yellow in with the ultramarine blue to get just a straight up grassy green. But you can add varying shades to just add a little bit more white, a little bit more cad yellow, touch of phthalo, and just play with it that way. You have many, many options for beautiful shades of green. Even a little burnt sienna will neutralize it and tone it down a little bit. Yellow ochre does the same thing, and it tones it down a little. And I'm starting to give these umbrellas a little bit more form and clarity. Again, it's that idea of having just a part that feels a little bit more finished as I work my way through the rest of the painting. This passage over off to the left that has sort of a balcony that comes out, I'm working on looking through that whole area as far as what's the farthest away and layering. And then so I layer back the furthest shadows first, and then the brown of the awning comes out a little bit more. And so I'm just working on those and a few pillars in place, posts for that passage. And then later I'll come through with a tiny brush, and I'll add some pots and little dabs of indiscriminate something that we don't really know what it is, but it gives us a feeling that, oh, there's life and there's, things, maybe wind chimes, whatever, and just to make it look like a pleasant place to sit. So I'm working on a few of the areas around the umbrellas again before pulling the rest of the painting to a finish. Just getting a few of those passages in there to feel a little bit more accurate. This pavement is a great example of finding passages in your scene that have movement of light on them. So instead of just painting this a battleship gray from top to bottom, I'm looking for areas in here where the light is most intense and areas where it's a little bit less intense. So over there, again, where the area is the focal point, I'm working on developing that as being the brightest sunlit spot in the whole painting. Even though what's near me can appear sunnier and brighter, I want to purposely tone it down a little. You can't just be so literal that you have to be the artist, you have to be the poet and make your painting do what you want it to do. So you have to really control that scene. So those were the choices that I made to keep that area the focal point. And we all have heard those words, focal point. But that means then that you have to make choices with the rest of your scene to make that focal area. So this grass in the foreground, I blocked in sort of the shadow color first to give myself a place to begin with blocking in the rest of the sunlit passages of the ground. So then I'll layer in a few shadows over the top of that sunlit area and make it soften the edges by smaller pieces of paint. Just make it feel like it's one. I don't want the shadows to be observed. I'd rather have them be more felt. So if they're too heavy, they become an object. So I'm adding a little bit of cooler tone in them to make them feel more atmospheric. All right, so now I'm making a lighter lavender color. This is going to be the shadow color of the pavement. And I put a piece down. If it's too dark, which it was, you can lighten it a little bit. But now I'm thinking about the pieces of shadow as they lay across the sidewalk. And what are those pieces? And they have to connect to the shadow on the grass. So that even if my lighting changes while I'm painting, I have to be cognizant of shadows cast by trees. They're going to cast on the sidewalk as well as on the grass. And so I'm blocking those in, thinking about foliage and some dappled light. I'll add that in as I go along. I also want to point out that I'm keeping my brush strokes in this passage here horizontal to really give the feeling of it being a flat table surface of the foreground. And I've always said that painting landscapes in plein air is very much like painting still lifes. You've got your foreground, your tabletop, and that they're the same, one and the same. You have to create a feeling of flat and that it goes back into the distance. There are times and seasons in your life when you're not able to get out to plein air paint as much. I want to strongly encourage you to practice still lifes during that time. You'll find that they are almost identical. And you've got your table, you've got your vertical objects, and then your background, just like in a plein air study. And you're working from life, so you have some of the same challenges, but in a studio you can control the lighting and how long you work. So working on this plein air again, I'm back to now popping in some of the highlighted passages on the grass, getting that dappled sunlight feeling as the light is shining through the trees. So I put in some of those taller little cedar trees, bushes up front, just adding a little bit of information in and around them. I want to create a sort of a vignette barrier that says, you know, these trees are here, and they were, but I also want them to help sort of guide and direct the eye to the actual focal area. So in a way, they're sort of blocking the eye from wandering around the rest of the painting. Tiny little brush, I'm adding some water sparkling down the fountain. And then I will add a few of those plant and indicators over off to the side under that awning. And just of some of the, maybe they were little trinkety things for sale. Wind chimes, and there's Molly's gift store actually is in that part of the carriage house, and you walk in right under that awning and they have beautiful, beautiful gifts, a lot of them handmade, local crafts. Last year I bought an ornament from a lady who's 87 years old. She hand paints Stan Hywet ornaments, and so I was so excited to buy one. I don't know if she's still around, but they have a lot of other things if you do happen to get this way. I hope you can make it. I have a workshop coming up in July of 2021 here at Stan Hywet. You go to their website, link below, to join me in that workshop. It's 3 days, 1 day a week for 3 weeks. And anyway, so there's a lot of people milling around, and I grabbed just a few for the purpose of this. It helps to show scale. Also, paintings just seem a little bit more alive when you put a beating heart in your scene. Blocking in a few of the trees, I thought that it helped sort of frame in, again, the scene. A little bit of my darker value there that was important in the beginning in my thumbnail sketch helps to just set that roof line back a little bit. It makes it feel like, oh, we're kind of in the shadow of a tree. Blocking in with just a dark ultramarine blue burnt sienna. Don't have to get fussy with the leaf color. This side is getting a little bit more light hitting the leaves, so they're a little more green. Again, it just has a nice, shady, breezy feeling to the whole scene. Few brush strokes of a lighter value going across the base where the light is hitting it of that tree trunk and blending it into its surroundings. I want to thank you all so much for joining me, and check out the links below. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up this video. I wanted to thank you so much for joining me, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I always love your comments. And be sure to check out those links below if you are interested in my workshop coming up here in Stan Hywet, Akron, Ohio, in July of 2021. And look up the links on just Stan Hywet, and there's some YouTube videos on Stan Hywet as well. It is stunning, and I'm super honored to be here and really excited about this. All right, you guys, I will see you later. See you next time. Bye-bye. Join me this July 2021 for a unique opportunity to paint on the grounds of Stan Hywet Hall and Gardens in Akron, Ohio. This sprawling estate on 75 acres was once the home to the Sieberlings, founders of Goodyear Tire. Now it is a gorgeous estate open to the public, and they've offered me the unique opportunity to present a workshop on the grounds. And I'm so excited to bring this to you. As you can see from these photos, everywhere there is a beautiful painting waiting to be captured. So join me for 3 days as we explore the grounds of this incredible estate, doing some plein air paintings, just studying this beautiful place. I'm excited to share this opportunity with you, and I hope you take advantage of it. $150 for non-members, $120 for members, for 3 full days of a workshop. So join me then. Also, there are some paint days, open paint days coming up, as well as a demo day in June. That's June 6th. Not for us alone was the slogan of the Sieberlings, and they have it right above their door. And that means that they meant for this to be shared with everyone. Gertrude Sieberling was a plein air painter herself, and she often did paintings from around the property. And she also had the unique opportunity of studying under Emile Groupet. He was a well-known plein air painter of the early 1900s. All right, so I hope that you've enjoyed looking at these pictures and it has whet your appetite to join me either for a workshop or for one of the open paint days coming up this year. I think that you're going to enjoy it, and I will see you then. All right. Listed in the top 100 most beautiful beaches in the world by National Geographic, Cannon Beach is a joy to plein air paint. The Oregon beaches truly are one of my most favorite beaches in the world. The water is a stunning aqua, deep sapphire, velvety blue. It's just unlike anywhere else in the world, with massive rocks and starfish, crashing waves. There's an endless supply of things to paint. And we had a wonderful time painting there this last October. We kept very safe, COVID-free. This is the group that joined us. We had a fantastic time. And being outdoors, we felt very safe. And this is a wonderful opportunity to just study how to plein air paint in a fantastic location. It's soothing and relaxing, listening to the ocean waves while painting. Just sort of takes all your cares and washes them right back out to the sea. I love painting in the ocean, especially early in the morning like this. It's just absolutely breathtaking, peaceful. Ancient forests, mysterious. They have this intrigue that you don't find anywhere else in this country. Majestic beaches, soaring cliffs, makes Oregon a fascinating must on any plein air painter's list. The workshop is designed to keep you safe. You can see we're all spread out, and everywhere you look is somewhere fantastic to paint. So I hope that you take a look at this one, follow the link for more information. I would love to meet you in Oregon this coming year. Throughout the course of our artistic journeys, we often have hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs of beautiful landscapes. And in this workshop, I want to teach you how to take those photos and turn them into beautiful landscape paintings. This is an online class, and it is a 4-part session, and we will go over painting from photos. I have 4 paintings that I will be doing a demo each day in the class. And in this painting, I will show you how to break down a composition from your photo. And if you have a plein air study, we can go over that, how to incorporate that into your painting in the studio, and then how to just work out the final result from your photo using the challenges that come with working from photos, values, color, distortions, and so forth. So in this class, I will demonstrate painting water, painting trees. I'll demonstrate painting certain lighting effects that we often try to get in our paintings. And I'll also paint some sort of building or housing structure. I hope you can join me in this very informative online workshop later this year. Spaces available for this year in France. I hope that you can join me for a wonderful 10-day workshop in the south of France, August 29th through September 9th. Then we'll head up to Paris for some bonus days. This year, we're going to be touring France. Southern France. Will be in these beautiful areas where I am painting at Les Vieux Cavants, and it is a 10-day workshop, all included except for your flight and a couple of meals. All of the rest of your meals and your lodging and your tuition are all covered in this workshop. We will be in the most stunning place here in the world as far as I'm concerned. It is gorgeous and I cannot wait. I hope that you can join me for 2022 to paint in these medieval villages and just gorgeous, gorgeous areas to paint. I am also adding as a special bonus a 3-day trip to Paris. For more information on that, check out my links below on my workshop this year. I wish you the very best in your artistic endeavors, and I do hope our paths cross at some time. Thank you all for your support, and have a wonderful, happy painting experience.